Welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters for our fourth match of the day. Thanks again for sticking with us, and we have plenty more matches to come. Now, of course, we're going to be moving on to another Division A match, but one that is a little bit lower down the table than what we had last time, Gia, with Surrender versus Posesi.
That is correct. Surrender with, I have to say, a mediocre performance compared to what we might expect of him in terms of results, although the play doesn't seem like it has been too questionable. I remember yesterday there were a couple of lines that we weren't entirely sure of in the Quest Warlock deck in particular, but for Posesi, he had a very strong start and recently has hit a losing streak.
He has not been looking all too good for him. And I explained it yesterday that the misplays he's made, or at least the very obvious standout ones, which just been blunders, haven't been game losing, but they're indicative of where his mindset is at, where I think he's more likely to be making these mistakes that could end up being disastrous for him as he does enter these high pressure situations. It's not disastrous for Posesi yet by any stretch of the imagination. He's still in Division A, and it's still a respectable win rate with a very good chance of moving up to the top 6. And if he takes the win here, I think he's pretty much guaranteed to be in the top 6 overall.
Very true. And we have to address the elephant in the room that there has been mutual warrior bans all throughout the weekend, but after Kin and Blitzchung abandoned that strategy altogether, we now have Surrender picking up the reins and being the one to leave up warrior.
Yeah, he's basically the only player I feel like we have left here in APAC who is not going for the ban warrior strategy. I think it has, a little bit to do with the fact that, at least at a guess, I would say he would rather face his hunter into the warrior than the demon hunter. Maybe I'm reading too much into it on that specific matchup, but at least the quest warlock up against the demon hunter has not been feeling like an especially good matchup at all. But based on Posesi's rest of his lineup, I think he's in a pretty good spot up against Surrender here.
It's true. I think that the mindset behind leaving up warrior is definitely something still worth exploring, because every series leading up to today when the warrior has been banned, we always just say, okay, then the tempo demon hunter will get a win at some point. So you could easily flip it around and say, okay, I'm banning tempo, and then the warrior will get a win at some point. So it really just depends on micro percentages as to which between the two you will end up leaving up. And I think it is because of that hunter, as you pointed out, that Surrender maybe feels leaving up warriors a bit more advantageous for himself. But the stats on our Highlander Hunter win rates seem to contradict that.
They do indeed. Relatively small sample sizes, and of course, not every Highlander Hunter player is Surrender, who is one of the best players that we have here in APAC and has been bringing this deck week in and week out. But before we get to see that, we're going to be going with the Warrior versus the Warlock, a matchup that we haven't really seen at all so far. I got to say, I feel like the Warrior should be in a pretty good spot in this matchup. I think the Warlock will struggle to get the OTK going later on in the game, given the sheer amount of armor that Warrior can gain. But before even all of that, I feel like Warrior has a good chance to just stick in board early game with the copies of the Warmall Challenger, and then after move on to a very strong mid-game plan.
Yeah, it is very true, but it's worth noting that this version of Warrior, the second one that we've seen this weekend, is different from with the eggs and the Terran Gorfian. And it turns out Terran is the best keep in the matchup because it is so sticky against the Warlock removal. This is just plain tempo warrior from Posesi not running the egg package, and it's also not got the bombs, which some of the players are running to make it better against this specific matchup.
Yeah, Surrender will be very, very happy that he doesn't have to run this Warlock into Bomb Warrior, because that feels like a truly disastrous matchup, I must say. But to start things off here with Posesi, I think I'm just looking at a full mull, risky skipper, while a decent card is just not kept in most of the matchups, because you want to find some of the juicier cards and then draw that off the anchor later.
Job's done.
Despite not having the egg package, of course, Posesi has room for other tech inclusions, and we see the Captain Greenskin, which Sottle has been advocating to include if you're expecting a lot of priest, and maybe that was what Posesi thought would be the meta for this week, because we saw it do relatively okay last week, and this seemed to have people converted onto the relatively strong power level of priest. But for this particular matchup, I also can see it getting work done, just because more weapon swings to the face is more burst.
Exactly. It's one of the matchups as well where the big downside of running Captain Greenskin, of course, is that you are less likely to hit your risky skipper off of the anchor when that comes down, because it's just another pirate in the pool to dilute it. In this matchup, I think that's not anywhere near so much of a concern. Even if Greenskin was in the deck and the Ankar was in hand, you don't really need the Risky Skipper desperately in this matchup most of the time.
I'm sorry, this is just so funny how Dark Skies lines up against this board.
How
Imagine.
so? Yeah. I mean, it's clear, I guess, technically,
With a
what there is presented. Yeah,
bunch of
exactly.
armor and the slowest animation you've ever seen. From Posesi, he is running 2 copies of Korkron Elite. Not to say that he should be just chucking one out right into Surrender's coin Netherwing turn, but it's worth noting that he has flexibility as to how he actually wants to portion out his threats. He doesn't have to go for all of the combo pieces saved for one.
Yeah, I love this game plan from Posesi. I think the Korkron there, when you have Greenskin in hand for next turn, didn't feel quite right. And so it was really a case for me of Livewire or the Ankar. Love the Ankar, because I feel like drawing cards from your deck, thinning it out to find either the combo pieces or Battle Rage at this point feels much more important. And he's still able to fill out his curve perfectly with his Sky Raider half the time as well.
Completely agree. The Ankar seems much better to get online versus the slower matchups, because thinning your deck towards the OTK, as you mentioned, is the main game plan. And the Livewire Lance, in contrast, is helpful for tempo matchups where the lackeys could really help you get back the board against Demon Hunter, for example, the Kobolds and the Rushes, and even the Taunts.
Okay, and we are already seeing a pretty key factor in the matchup, which is, again, in pretty much every other matchup, be it aggressive or control, the Warlock has the chance to just get very lucky with tapping into Malagos and getting a reverse lethal very quickly. It starts to become clear that's very difficult in this matchup.
Indeed, and that's why you see Surrender conceding the armor gain to Posesi just to make sure he gets rid of the minions. I think Surrender could be viewing this more from a control perspective, just outlast the burst from Posesi and the pressure until he can get Dragon Queen Alexstrasza and win through board rather than the burst.
And the worst part of all here for Surrender is not only is he facing a Greenskin on board, he doesn't actually have an answer to it in hand at the moment, which means
Twist?
Tap Plot Twist to hit Soulfire, or Plot Twist to hit the Twisting Nether. Or Nether Breath, sorry.
Right. Gives himself 1 extra slot in the draw by tapping first. No. Oh, there it is.
Okay, that is the card that I think Surrender kind of needed, to be honest, to stabilize here. And discarding Zephyrus, not the end of the world.
Not the end right now. Later on, I feel it could potentially have value for healing, but that's redundant when you would much rather just heal with the Moarg Nether Breath. And Surrender's already got the Ooze for the next weapon.
What now?
Posesi could just build a pirate board.
What does that mean? How are you imagining that?
Start with
South
Sky
Sea.
Raider.
Yeah.
What now?
There's a handful of pirates that could be played even with just 2 mana remaining. South Sea Deckhand, another Sky Raider, the 2/2 that gets summoned from hand when you play a pirate.
I must choose.
I just feel that he's got to play out a certain amount of threats that not just let Surrender tap and that's his turn. Because he really needs to get to his Battle Rage as well.
The pirate's code. Job done.
This is pretty vulnerable to the ooze that can come down from Surrender. Obviously, Posesi knows that going into turn 6 he would rather play the big taunt here, which is what has actually happened now for Surrender. Pretty awkward choice.
Being a question mark, probably tapping. I think I definitely prefer the taunt. And there is still the other Livewire that Surrender could potentially ooze later on.
It still is a weird play, though, from Posesi, I've got to say. I was definitely expecting the Sky Raider there instead, or just Corkron and smack him in the head.
The thinking for Posesi might be that when he goes for an eventual Battle Rage turn, which looks very much like his win condition at this point, because the burst isn't quite coming together, if he plays the Sky Raider and gets an expensive pirate, or just plays all the cheap ones outside of the second skipper, then he's committing to playing both the skippers for the Battle
True.
Rage turn. All the other minions are pretty expensive. Might be a little bit too far down the line.
It's a nice draw, though, for Posesi, continuing to thin the deck and getting more damage to face whenever he needs it.
And he's just seen the ooze.
True.
Sign me up. We got the other Livewire lands from this. Got some for his trouble. Lackeys can help fill out the gaps in his curve. I'm thinking the ones that generate value are what he really wants to see now.
The question for me is whether or not you even bother attacking into the ooze, or if
Sure.
you're just going all face here.
That's very valid.
You've seen a Soulfire. If there was a Nether Breath, it probably would have just come down last turn.
Someone's gotta lead the charge.
That is just
Whoa.
all he has in hand. Not all available
of
next
burst.
turn, but he could cash in the Lackey now. Measured response.
Yeah, I mean, if Netherwing comes down, then he's able to win anyway. So most clears should get him there with this.
So I'm still looking at just the big taunt for surrender.
Mhm.
Got both Moargs, but no Nether Breath.
So many possibilities.
So the play could be Moarg, Mortal Coil to just try and dig for it.
Okay.
Or if you don't believe in that, then, which is fairly unlikely, then the Abyssal Summoner is a little bit safer.
Oh!
Oh, he's doing it.
It's worth noting that Warrior has Generate that they can benefit off of the Moargs with, if you even want to call that a benefit, because then
Yeah.
it instantly kills a Corkron, which you would rather buff by damaging it.
Almost out of time.
But if Surrender taps, he is dead.
Tap equals death here.
I wonder.
And even if he doesn't tap, if Posesi just removes these Moargs, Surrender's healing is so limited now.
He sees it. He lives to fight for another turn. Just.
1 damage off lethal is Posesi.
But he has to be thinking about these Moargs now, because even if it's not lethal right now, you really don't want to give your opponent the out of Nether Breath off the top. Especially when a quest is completed next turn, I believe, so just a free tap will come down.
But the thing is, if Posesi wants to get rid of the Moargs, he's sinking in some of his burst damage. You
Yeah.
can see the Warmaul that kills... whoa. Still not lethal, but that is
Okay.
so much burst for next turn. I'm thinking Posesi can play the Warmaul now, kill the
Yeah.
2/4,
Yeah.
and it's a debate between Hench Clan or just cash in a Corkron immediately, because he's only at 9 next turn. Wait
I
a
like the
second!
daring escape.
With the
Double
lackeys?
Corkron daring escape. Or even the lackeys. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
insane.
That's crazy! Never
Okay,
give
this
Warrior
turn,
Rogue
fine.
cards. Okay.
Look what I brought!
Render. Finally, putting something of substance on the board. How much damage is this? Whoa! He can...
Got 8 straight up.
Yeah. I don't see a lethal. But there's an option to go Blood Boil, trade copy.
Right.
Wow. This is,
So complicated.
yeah. I think he's looking at something similar. So he goes Skipper plus Horcron. That makes the Blood Boil then cost 2.
Right.
And then you can still fit in a Bloodsworn Mercenary.
Drink your blood, eat your flesh. I must choose.
He's gonna Daring Escape this, isn't he? Another Lackey plus the Daring Escape.
Doesn't have enough space in hand. You'd have to like trade in the 1/2 first, I guess, if you wanted to do that.
It's enough space, right?
Oh no,
Goes
okay,
up to
he's
9.
alright, yeah.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't swing. Wow. I don't know what Surrender said there, but he definitely it definitely looked like an expletive.
Oh!
Breath after
Nether
both
breath.
Morgs.
Yeah. So that is up to 16 if he needs it. Or it could just be Alex Straza on himself.
I wonder.
I mean,
I'm on board.
I think he would survive at 16, but not 15.
Yes, to several combinations, right? There's the Grom Inner Rage, which is 12
Great
plus
point.
the weapon,
Yep.
and then there's also the combination we see of double damage lackeys in the Corcrons. But I think that the heal right here is not a winning play. Whereas on the off chance, if the Alex lives, maybe Surrender can pull himself out of this. But that, as we can see, is just GG.
Very nice line there from Posesi. This is something that we see a lot in APAC, where there were potentially better lines there for Posesi. That last turn was super, super complicated. But he made a line that won him the game the vast, vast majority of the time, which is more than good enough. He didn't rope out, didn't mess anything up, and he took a well-deserved win because of that.
That was very, very well. Indeed, there were so many lines, and I feel like the line I was suggesting with the Risky Skipper Corcron probably wouldn't have worked out in the end. If you're going to copy the Blood Boil, then the Corcron dies before it can even trade. And if you're trading with the Blood Boil first, then you're going to copy a low health minion. It's very complicated, but I love the line that Posesi did end up taking with the bounces. And he left an empty board, which is crucial because Surrender, even if he had her breath, there's no potential for a minion to target with it.
Yeah, well, with no Moargs left anyway, it's kind of the
Sure.
same thing as targeting phase. But yes, it's still good just to lock any outs of your opponent, like tapping into Malagos to lethal you on the following turn or anything like that. It's very clean play overall. But the Warrior taking the win, again, even when you're leaving it up, I think you're still kind of expecting your opponent to take a win with it. It's just you are hoping to maybe sneak one in against it first, whereas the Demon Hunter would have been even more likely to get that first win.
Yes, indeed. So we are moving on to next game. Not a single break, no rest for the players. We're going to see Surrender on the Highlander Hunter.
A matchup that has looked to be favored for the Highlander Hunter, I will say. Yeah, not with a hand like this, though. You want to go super aggressive right from the get-go.
And Posesi's got Dark Skies in the opener. That is absolutely key to make sure he can deal with the Fairy Dragons, the Primordial Explorers, and company. Surrender has a curve, but it's substandard.
Yeah, I think it's fair to call it that, given how good some of the 3-drops can be, like Animal Companion or the Felmore on 2, even a Stormhammer can be insane in this matchup. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
He's spending all his mana every turn. Another Feywing.
Another Feywing.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can make the argument that the second one probably won't get played for quite a while because Surrender 4, 5, 6 kind of locked up with the first Feywing, Faceless Corruptor, and then Dragonbane Hero Power. At which point, I'm looking at the Onyxia. I think it's wrong, but
I think it's still Feywing,
yeah, I'm thinking about it.
I mean, it's worth talking about, right? Because those perfectly demonstrate two very different approaches to the game plan. The Fey Wing, of course, is aggressive, getting the damage in, minions that are hard to clear, and closing it out quickly. The Onyxia is a much more late-game value-oriented approach, because it's worth saying that with these aggro decks, even though Warlock should be able to outvalue you, if they have to spend all their removal instead of tapping in the mid-game to kill off your minions, Onyxia could very well be a final threat that the Warlock just can't answer.
I wonder.
Very close, but I think that for the initial game plan, the Fey Wing makes most sense. And it's also worth noting that the Corruptor on 5 is not guaranteed. What if you don't have a minion to stick it on? Then you would rather just play a 5/4 onto the board.
Fire everything and everyone!
Posesi is getting the cycle in this way. Just accepting that the Morg will die on board to the Poisonous. Fey Wing is great here for Surrender because it's got a health total that survives against Coin Nether Wing.
It is, but is it better than Dragonbane? Because Dragonbane in this matchup has been pretty insane, I will say.
But then, if it dies immediately to Dark Skies, I think you'd rather have the Dragonbane in hand to immediately get the 5 damage with Hero Power.
Fair point. Yep. Very fair point. And the curve is still very powerful, you know, just going for Fey Wing on 4 is perfectly... On 5, sorry.
Posesi has had great answers in the mid game, and he's sitting on both of the Nether Wings, allows him to swing back tempo, potentially, if Surrender just goes for Fey Wing here.
Which... Okay, so because Posesi's at 29 health, was there ever any consideration for something like Scale Rider, Zephyr's Moonfire, just to try and clear the board and get as much stuff on board as possible?
Isn't
Or
that
am I going crazy?
worse against Netherwing?
Oh, I mean against Netherwing, sure.
And I feel Zephyrus gets way better in this matchup, and because Surrender has fallen behind, it's gonna have to put in way more work than that. So I'm looking at the Dragonbane now, and you actually want the damage to land on the Netherwing.
Yeah, Trade Wing. Or Trade Bane, yeah.
Doesn't have the same ring as Dragon Trader, a Dino Trader brand. Both of them looking away, and Surrender hits the bullseye.
Yeah.
Oh!
I mean, based on the reactions, Surrender looked annoyed before it even happened. Posesi looked happy, but I guess they were wrong.
Well, that's a great top deck for Posesi, though.
Yes. I guess. There's still just some very powerful plays for Surrender here.
It's weird because Zephyrus will interact with your mana as if you have 5 remaining, and you wanna Zephyrus to get rid of the 6/6, I think, and then trade and then Hero Power, ideally. But because you need the mana for Hero Power, I think he's supposed to start with Hero Power here.
Or, alternatively, you could skip the Hero Power and go Scale Rider to take out the 2/2 and then Zephyrus Death.
Imagine skipping Hero Power with a Dragonbane on board. I don't know.
Right, but okay, so say you go Hero Power and it hits the 6/6, what do you do then?
Then you Scale Rider it.
Yeah, okay.
Isn't that great? I don't know. The
Yeah,
only
that's
bad
pretty good.
outcome to me is it hits the 2/2. That's the disaster. But 2 out of 3 times, get a damage going somewhere good. If the 6/6 is at full health, then you can go Zephyrus Death afterward.
You wish
Right?
I create.
It might still just give death here. Okay. If that's guaranteed, then I like this too. Debating the Scale Rider.
I actually would rather that it hits the minion there. Which, I mean, he got the result he wanted if he traded that way.
I'm not sure if he rather would, but maybe he was saying that the trade isn't worth giving him the guarantee over the 50-50 that he
sure.
already had. It's really close.
Right, so he just wanted the potential for everything to go face.
Maybe.
So many possibilities.
I mean, he did just miss 2 damage to the face in this situation, which saved 2 health on his guy.
Yeah.
Just
Pretty big
fairly
deal.
similar.
Yeah, the Netherwing is now a lot more
Yeah.
awkward for Posesi. He'd have to throw down a Soulfire as well.
Yeah. So maybe
Which
that
guts
was
his hand
intentional.
size.
from
Yeah.
Surrender. But Posesi has to remove the Dragonbane, right?
Almost out of time.
He's sitting on the Sense Demons, which could, it guarantees gets him Moarg. And the other Aranasi.
Fire everything and everyone.
All right, it's down. The Dragonbane can finally start ruining Posesi's life because it is just one of the most disastrous cards in this matchup for the Hunter.
Ooh, Surrender with the Desert Spear pickup can now just chuck that face, transform the Locust into a Faceless Corruptor,
Yeah.
get a strong board while continuing to push the damage. And next turn, he has the Dragon Queen available.
It's all looking very, very good for Surrender now, especially as the Desert Spear unlocks the kill command as well. So Dragon Queen is nice, don't get me wrong, but he's potentially just looking at lethal in the next couple of turns, even without that, especially with the Nagran Slam.
I don't think we've seen a Nagran Slam for lethal on Apex stream yet. I would like for that to happen.
As would I. I think Raven would actually just run over and force himself to start casting APAC again if that happened.
And let him replay, please, because I don't want to go on EU and cast a bunch of Beast Mirrors. Man,
Right,
did
quest
not hit the other
completion.
Dark Skies.
Yeah, it's a very rough hand to be getting here, but I guess the saving grace is that Quest next turn could get him some pretty powerful outs, but he has to survive first.
He's staring down. 12 on the other side.
Yeah.
An active Dino Tamer Bran. I mean, possibility for it alongside Hero Power for lethal, so...
Exactly.
The Soulfire looks like it has to land on a minion, but it is so disastrous if it discards Posesi's own Alex Straza.
Makes you wonder about Posesi's play at all to go tap first and then the plot twist rather than just plot twist on its own, because that would have allowed for Keladon to be able to come down active as another potential board clear, and then if he missed that, he could have tapped afterwards, if you see what I mean. Yes, he's a little bit further away from quest completion, but I feel like clearing the board is a more pressing priority at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's worth reviewing for sure. We've seen some pretty crazy Alex Straza today, and yet another Malagos.
That is a good card to get here. Fireball I'm looking at as the premium option, but Malagos' Frostbolt is not bad at all.
You take those, and he's even got the Varanus in hand with an active Desert Spear.
Oh,
If Posesi does something crazy like his Alex Straza into a Deathwing,
you're correct, Gia. That is the best thing about Surrender's situation right now.
just
Oh,
saying,
man.
even the crowd is not possible for Posesi now.
Exactly. No Malagos left after it was discarded, so we couldn't even tap into that. Tap Nether is nice. You definitely take that.
Uh-huh.
But Varanus attack, Nagran Slam, it actually did matter for the lethal here, along
yes.
with the Frostbolt.
I am
Oh.
so pleasantly surprised by this outcome.
This absolute bundle of nonsense to deliver lethal here against Posesi.
Ah, yes.
And of course, Surrender sees it instantly. He's just like, yeah, that's pretty easy lethal. I'm just going to sip my tea now.
I think Surrender has graduated from taking tiny sips during the game to medium-sized sips after the game. He's getting there, Derek, little by little.
Eventually, we'll get him with the bucket before the game, just ready to gulp down as much tea as he needs to power up.
Oh, man. Wow, Surrender on this deck, he's just stood by Highlander Hunter week after week. If you look on ladder stats, it's one of the best performing decks. I think recently overtaking Demon Hunter even, as the deck is relatively straightforward to pilot, but still very consistent despite being Highlander, because most of the cards just cap out at around 3 mana.
Yeah, it's a relatively easy deck to play overall, which is why I think it will have a very good win rate on ladder, where there's less room to mess up
True.
than with these decks like Warrior and Quest Warlock. But I will say that it's not just an absolutely easy deck to throw down. There's still a lot of nuances that you have to learn, which I think Surrender has definitely done a great job of doing. But now, with that out of the way, we are looking at, of course, Warlock having lost on either side for both of these players, Gia, which can only mean one thing: pride on the line. It's a Warlock mirror.
Oh, yes, very exciting. And it's also very important to note that despite Posesi's practice partners Glory and Alutemu running the Kartut Defender in their Quest Warlock list, Posesi has the bread and butter Abyssal Summoners, so probably toe-to-toe in the favor in this matchup with Surrender. It's just a little difference in that Surrender has one Mortal Coil to have an Acidic Swamp Ooze in
I
there.
am your nightmare.
Right, which is, I think, pretty minimal difference, to be perfectly honest. Like, having the extra cycle isn't even really that good a lot of the time in the mirror, because it's just a card you will dump. I would say the majority of the time, even, you want to play the Mortal Coil to deliberately not draw in this matchup, just because you want to dump cards out of your hand.
I would agree, for sure. As far as the openers, both players, okay, I was gonna say have very slow hands, but Surrender with the plot twist could be running away with the quest completion.
Yeah, looking very favoured for Surrender to get things rolling. But Posesi could turn this around. And again, we got to point out, it's not like the first player to hit plot twist just wins the game. You have a fairly big window, I feel like, in order to go for the plot twist and start pulling things back. Because it's really just a sliding scale rather than a discrete you hit it or you don't. Because even if you hit it a few turns later, it's just 2 potential taps that you've missed out on.
That's right. This is very much different from the Glowfly Swarm in the Druid Mirror. It's a sliding scale and not a snowball. And we're already seeing potential for Posesi to start dumping cards if he likes. Even though he's at 9 cards, you have to think about next turn. You want to be tapping again, so are you going to be spending the mana right now?
But then by that metric, which cards do you get rid of? Is this a Soulfire Face on this turn? We saw that from Glory earlier on, just to dump as many cards as possible. Maybe it's Rain of Fire and then Soulfire Face. None of these cards are crucial to winning the game.
It's a lot of burst dumps. I'm still looking at the Zephrys, but the more that we watch the matchup, the more we see players not just playing the Bloodfin Raptor, and that's something maybe we were doing wrong in testing. Wow! Both the twists. You obviously don't want them in the same hand.
Now he can go for both of them if he's quick enough, AG.
Go, Surrender. Wait, the other one was green, so that means he drew it back, right?
I think it was green.
Yeah. He was quick enough. He did it, Derek.
The absolute nuts here for Surrender. Going for quest completion next turn, start tapping away the dream.
But let's bear in mind, this is the situation that Alutemu had versus Chonsu. And Chonsu, 5 out of 6 times, still should have won that game at the end there. So not all hope is lost for Posesi.
Okay, since Demons is more card draw.
Yeah, can get him Moarg or Aranasi.
The thing is, you don't want to draw cards that aren't plot twist though, because like yes, it gets you closer to the plot twist, but it also means you have less cards in your deck overall by the time you find it. You know?
I still think it's the play here. It also helps towards quest completion at the very least, and he can dump. I'm still saying Zephrys afterward, and maybe that's wrong.
Well, what about here just going for Zephrys Soulfire tap? Like, I know I'm very aggressively going for the Soulfire face play, but I think for Posesi here, it's nice to hold on to combo pieces, absolutely. But the more pressing concern is he does not have the plot twist, which he has to find.
Right, so at the tap gives you a chance at getting plot twist, whereas the Sense Demons absolutely will not.
Right, and I mean, also, if he goes for this line, it just dumps more cards by going for the Soulfire.
Really
Obviously,
tough
the
to say.
benefit of doing it this way is going into turn 6. He actually has the Abyssal Summoner with more cards in hand, so I can understand his line for this exact turn.
Not a terrible one to discount for Surrender.
Yeah, I mean, overall for Surrender, it's a pretty great spot. He's got a hand of mostly cards that you don't care about if they're 0 or not.
He also wants to go for his Abyssal on the follow-up, so it's a question of whether he is going to
True.
clear the Moarg preemptively, because if that's left on board and you go Abyssal, it's pretty much like you didn't go Abyssal at all.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So how does he then clear that? Does he
Good Dark Skies?
hold the Nether Breath? Right, Dark Skies is tempting to throw down.
He's got the second one as well, so if we're to see the Abyssal on the backswing, then Surrender still has an answer.
Of course it's the right way.
Interesting.
Well, there it is. It's active.
Zessie assuming the position of a twistless Warlock player.
By the way, Gia, just in case you weren't aware, when Celadan is yellow, it means it will destroy all minions, not just the Questing Explorer on the other side.
I know. The important thing is that it happened during testing. And that's why you test. But he's faced with the same problem, right? Because the Morg is left on board, if Posesi plays Abyssal Summoner, it just takes one spell for Surrender to answer. If he's going Soulfire, I expect to see a tap afterward. Just get that cycle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is what Posesi's been gearing towards for a long time. And I guess, actually, this is the kind of the hidden genius behind Surrender's play is, yes, the Moarg is bad for him on the following turn in terms of Abyssal Summoner. It's also really bad for Posesi, however, with his own Abyssal Summoner here.
Yeah. Posesi maintains the Moarg. And even though Surrender's seen the Celadan discarded, it's that same problem. The Abyssal Summoner is potentially answered immediately, but Surrender can go Abyssal plus Aranasi. That puts two D-struts on the board.
Yeah, at that point, you're looking at like Rain of Fire and
Right.
then Abyssal Summoner before you even... Sorry, and then Rain of Fire before you're clearing. But by the same metric, Surrender may want to go for, an alternate plan again where he's tapping every turn and therefore could hold back on the summoners until turn 8.
Right? He taps this turn. It looks to me that he would be expending the Dark Skies, then tap and then end with an Aranasi.
Almost out of time.
He could just say, I'll play a summoner, force Posesi to have the answer, and then redevelop on the following turn.
Yeah. The other line I was looking at was like leaving up the Moarg deliberately again, and instead going like Ooze, tap Aranasi, in order to make Posesi's turn more awkward, but overall this just kind of forces Posesi's hand a little bit more.
It's worth noting this is 21 health on the board. Very important breakpoint. It is one off just the Dark Skies.
Yeah.
Dealing with everything for 20. And Posesi's not got up to follow up. He has Rain of Fire, but it feels bad to use that just to deal with one minion. No dragon in hand either, so this Nether Breath is only dealing 2 times 2.
Yeah. Which is 4. Quick math.
So it looks like we're gonna see tap plus Rain of Fire here.
All of a sudden, though, we are looking at quite a lot of burn having gone for Posesi. That second Rain of Fire, a Soul Fire down as well.
Great spot from Surrender to build that little bit of an awkward board. Dodge the Mortal Coil.
Whoa, that is a low-key deceptively good outcome there, I think, actually, for Surrender. Just getting the discount from 1 to 0 on the Rain of Fire opens up, at the very least, a 15 damage Malagos combo.
And finally for Posesi, that is quest completion right now if he wants it.
Yeah.
Just a question of whether he wants to Dark Skies first. Guaranteed get rid of this Crazed Netherwing, and yes he does.
Love it. Still getting quest completed, I believe,
Yes.
from this plot twist.
And he can end the turn with a tap. Very nice, getting back the Brood Mothers. Get him out of that crucial, or above that crucial 18 health breakpoint.
Yeah, quite an expensive hand. However, this isn't like the ideal for one where you want to start tapping because you want to hit Alex or Mali as the absolute dream outcomes. But
So this
far
does
from
put him,
disastrous.
yeah, if he goes for the Netherwing, get him back down to that scary 18, but this is just going into Surrender's 8 mana turn, not really Malagos available just yet.
Right. Exactly. There's only one 0 mana card in hand. Like, the odds of you dying to Malagos are extremely low.
Correct. Oh, Dark Skies on the other side.
Card draw rolling. Love it. I think this is just a not an especially funky way to approach the matchup, but for Surrender, just a very good demonstration of the standard approach.
Oh, I'm surprised he dumps this instead of the, or both. Okay, with the Ooze. I think understanding that with both Soulfire in hand, and no more chance to discount any of those spells because both the plot twists have been used, he can just expend one of those cards. Because at most he goes Malagos, 1 cost spell, 0 cost spell, and is there still a coin? Coin's still in his deck, right?
For Surrender, yes, there is, sorry.
So he both Soulfire makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, this is not the situation where you want to be using them to clear up hand space like it was for Posesi early on. He's got the quest completed. He's got inevitability on his side. He just needs to survive. Like, even for example here, I think Nether Breath is something you could very much throw down here. It is not crucial for the combo at all. And so, tap Moarg Nether Breath seems fine.
Yeah, I'm on board with that, especially since it's starting to get a bit scary for Surrender as well. Hold on.
Wait a second, he may just have lethal.
Yeah, if the Soulfires don't discard each other, well, right? He has 16, doesn't need to play the Rain of Fire. Oh my gosh.
And he got it. Didn't get Chonsu'd like we saw earlier on today. The Soulfire behaving this time. And while it was a risk, I think that Surrender could potentially have explored a line of taking it a little bit further. Now that Posesi had his quest active, at any point that he spikes and hits Malagos, Surrender, the game would be over. So overall, a perfectly reasonable way to approach the matchup, and he is rewarded for it.
Very clean as well. I think we saw a lot of interesting hand dump mindsets from Posesi there. I was saying you can dump the Zephrys, you can dump the Zephrys, but he's held onto it most of those turns, but still found ways to get the taps in. It is really that early Soulfire that frees up 2 spaces that I didn't expect would be Posesi's game plan, but it seemed pretty solid.
Yeah, I think both players had a pretty good approach to the matchup. It was, I mean, quite clearly the case where Surrender got the quest online active, and the only turn I think where he deviated away from tapping was his turn 6, when he had the very powerful Abyssal Summoner plus the Aranasi. And I think that shows exactly how important he believes the tapping as much as possible game plan to be. The only time he's deviating is when it is an incredibly powerful development onto the board. So overall for Surrender, just the correct way to approach the matchup, in my opinion.
Yeah, very cleanly played. That annoyingly sized Dark Skies board really hurt Posesi as well. We didn't get to see it pan out in the end there, but had Surrender not gotten the lethal immediately, we could have seen Posesi in a similar case where he was lacking 1 Dark Skies from lethal by the time he gets his Malagos. It's very small things, but in the grand scheme of things, I really like how both players approach the matchup.
I've liked a lot of the all players in terms of the Warlock mirror. Alutemu, I thought maybe was getting a little bit flustered towards the start, although his game plan did have some merit. Rivius going for a slightly more board-focused approach, one that I'm sure he has explored before, given that he's been playing this Quest Warlock deck for quite a while now, with a good amount of success beforehand, at least. But now, at least, it is going to be the slightly more unfortunate matchup with
Your
Demon
soul
Hunter
shall be
versus
mine.
Warlock. Or
Yes.
Posesi.
Surrender on match point could put himself on a pretty good score to end the round robin portion, despite him having that having that disappointing first few weeks. Has clawed himself out of it, now even at 3-3, and could very well just cement a good position into playoffs.
But the times that we have seen Warlock winning this, it has not been against hands like this, Gia. Very, very aggressive. Lots of damage to get things rolling for Surrender. But I will also say on the other side, Demon Hunter has not run into a hand that's quite so removal heavy as this one.
Yeah. I mean, the Moarg coin Rain of Fire could wreak havoc on Surrender's minions, but he does have that very important beaming sidekick, which could get 1 minion out of the 2 health range. Very crucial as to whether he wants to save it for, say, the Satyr Overseer, or cash it in immediately.
Hey, I got you, friend.
He's respecting it for Posesi, and the rewards are clear. His Battle Fiend, or his entire board, I should say, doesn't get instantly wiped.
It doesn't, but even if Posesi goes for the half wipe here, he ends up with a 2-2 versus a 1-2, which, if Surrender wants to develop the Satyr Overseer, then the Moarg stays on board, and if
True.
Surrender doesn't hit a weapon or Twin Slice along his hero power, then it'll have to be the Battle Fiend that trades into the Moarg. But we're gonna see Posesi be patient and go for Moarg double Rain of Fire?
It's a very possible line to consider. I mean, it depends on what he gets off the top. You know, if he finds himself with a Nether Breath, he might hold back on the Moarg completely, or at least save it to go for one big combo. Or, for example, if he gets another Questing Explorer, maybe he just throws that down now and tries to win the board the old-fashioned way.
And the turn 3 for Surrender is very awkward because he's not hit a weapon. It actually makes me wonder if the Respect on turn 2 was 100% the way to go. Because if you expect the response to Battle Fiend to be, or sorry, just Beaming Sidekick Hero Power without the second Battle Fiend to be Moarg, then you have the follow-up of the second Battle Fiend in Hero Power. But then that board would have been weak to a Soulfire. It's just different situations to play around for sure.
Yeah, exactly. There's a million ways to clear this board, to be honest, for Posesi, depending on what he has. Like, even, for example, trade Dark Skies here also would clear up the board very nicely.
Wow, Nether Breath also. I mean, Posesi has a clear without using the coin. If he just trades in 2-4, you go Moarg, Rain of Skies.
Yeah.
Rain of Skies. I said it again. Rainfire.
Possibilities.
I mean, we've already
And then
had
the Moarg
someone
still
make
stays on
a mock-up for the artwork of Eye Beaming Sidekick, so maybe we can get a Rain of Skies as well.
Just waiting for Seal of Fate. But of course, the problem with that line of going for Moarg, Rain of Fire is that if Surrender deals with it on the backswing, suddenly
Yeah.
Posesi doesn't have that guaranteed combo with Nether Breath, has to wait to draw the other Moarg.
Like, honestly, my head at the moment is at going Questing Explorer here and trading, because if we see Satyr Overseer plus trade, then you still have Moarg plus Rain of Fire, possibly with a Nether Breath as well to get the heal in at the same time. This does mitigate a lot of damage immediately, so the need to go for Nether Breath with the Moarg is definitely mitigated.
It's also important to remember that Posesi had a decent read on no Umber Wing, no Chaos Strike on the previous turn, because Surrender floated 2
True.
mana.
Yeah.
So he could just be saying, this Moarg sticks too, despite it being at 2 health only.
And if he did make that, what a read it was, because now he's looking to be in a premium situation. Whoa.
Wow, the other one as
Interesting.
well?
Okay, I think in this situation, you are looking much more likely to go Nether Breath here and then save the second Moarg to go with Rain of Fire, or if you need another AoE clear.
So
Like,
many
the Nether
like
Breath
it.
is just good here.
possibilities.
Yeah, heals 8. He can trade away the other minion with the Moarg and still develop his questing. So start with the questing. Or the tap, because he feels like he's so far ahead that he can get that many draws in.
Wow, he's completely holding back
Oh.
here.
Okay.
Well, the dividends could be huge if he gets a Moarg Nether Breath on a very good target later on. First of all, he does have to survive, though.
Yeah. I mean, there's still...
Job's done.
Look what
I was gonna say it looks like a Moarg Nether Breath turn to me, because the taunt doesn't look efficient in the face of a Warglaves. But Posesi might just be saying, I can still survive this turn, and then I'll go for the big heal.
Gia, this is like 2 damage off lethal with that top deck there. Double Twin Slice hero
Yeah.
power can take out the taunt. The Glavebound can go face if Surrender wants it to.
Mm-hmm. It is really huge. And that is the target that Posesi wanted with his Moarg.
And he can
But
get
it's-
it, you know. He saved it to go for a situation exactly like this one.
Mm-hmm. However, he's definitely not safe, even if he heals for 8.
Oh no.
Alright, I am expecting a 90-degree look left from Surrender in 3, 2, 0.5.
Tap first. Oh, you madman, Posesi. I love it.
Oh, wow. The greed!
Agreed.
Oh, that was just roughly 45 degrees.
Yeah, that was a much less severe tilt. Both figuratively and literally.
Aha. You're still fine. He's got an active skull. His I-beam one-shots the Moarg.
Yeah, you take that.
Alas, poor warlock.
I mean, Posesi has managed to fit in 2 extra draws than we thought he would. We're going for this line of tapping last turn, and the turn that he didn't go for Nether Breath, he went for a tap. We'll see. That's going to be enough, because Surrender's got more juice.
Right, he can just keep going and going and going, especially as the skull very possibly can be outcasted from the right-hand side, given there is no card in the deck that Surrender couldn't play and the skull at the same time. Just depends on what the draw is. But
Right.
the damage will not stop now at all.
I think it's more likely to be played from the left. That
Sure,
looks pretty
yeah.
good. But here we go. The big twist for Posesi, hoping to get back some Aaron Nassi's. Oh, Other Breath is available now. But Surrender's nodding his head. He did not see any of the Brood Mothers drawn.
Yeah. It hurts, but I think it's just too scary to not go for it here. Your mana might be spoken for on the next turn with Abyssal Summoner tap or something like that.
So much damage. Chaos Strike, double Twin Slice, Glaive Bound, and Hero Power is 9. Even if it's not lethal, it unlocks the skull.
Yeah, I mean, the thinking is you could go for the freeze and then skull for if
Sure.
you get Altruist, and then you have a bigger hand to juice that up.
And even if you don't get it, you could still just Twin Slice Glaive Bound this turn.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Whoa.
Mega development. It's just a full board.
Yeah, I mean, and card draw. Like, Demon Hunter is still just insane. You always forget it sometimes, and then you get a glimpse of its true power.
There's a reason he says, alas, poor war.
because Posesi's about to get dumpstered.
Because this is a good matchup.
Yes, exactly. And it will mean, if Surrender can take the win here, that he will move up to 4-3, Posesi down to 3-4. Still looking good overall, but Chonsu could mess him up depending on how his game goes tomorrow.
We even see Surrender holding back on the Glaive-bound Adept. For a reason I'm not sure of, to be honest.
I guess it's damage that goes over the top of taunts, whereas hero power isn't, so he fits in 1 extra damage here. Yeah, I mean, either way, I don't think it matters all too much. Zephyrus inactive.
Dark Skies deals with this board without having to use Rain of Fire.
I mean, to be honest, the only actual out, as we can see, is Plot Twist to draw both Aranassis, but then the board sticks around anyway, so I'm not even sure that was an out.
Posesi was just hoping there was no more burst, but Surrender is going for the top decked one.
Complete.
Of course. And that
That's right.
will mean Surrender goes up to 4-3 despite such a slow start, solidifies himself with a positive score in the round robin, and makes it to playoffs.
And at the very least, I think we can agree positive win rate is the minimum we should expect from Surrender, given how strong of a player he is and how well he's been playing. I think consistently he has been showing good understanding of the matchups and very strong technical play as well. The 2 real pillars of a good Hearthstone player that we expect from Surrender.
What did I tell you, Derek? Medium-sized sip after the game. What else can you expect of Surrender? Although, to be honest, I'm pretty curious what Posesi would have pulled out if he won that series. We saw a dab the other day.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
it going to be now? A dab with the shades?
I don't think we can handle it. I think the broadcast would just break. And sadly, we won't get to see that from Posesi on tomorrow, because that is him all done with his matches for the round robin. Surrender as well finishes with his 7th match there against Posesi. So 4-3 for 3-4 for Posesi. And now Posesi's fate is out of his hands. We're going to have to see how Chonsu will fare tomorrow in his remaining match. But that means, Gia, that we are all done with Division A for today. We now get to move on to the most tense match of the day.
It is true. This is, no doubts about it, a match for Frosty's career in Grandmasters. If he loses one, he has absolutely no chance of avoiding relegation, and he is up against the leader of the division in Tyler with a 5-1 score.
Yeah, it's going to be a very difficult match. Tyler has been, for the most part, I think, playing very well. The scary parts for him have come in the fact that he's brought some decks that he hasn't really tested in a tournament capacity. He's been relying more on his ladder stats, which don't necessarily translate over perfectly, as we well know, into a tournament setting. Of course, the infamous Dragon Aggro Hunter was almost his letdown in the past couple of weeks. But with a much more standard lineup here, Warrior, Quest Warlock, Demon Hunter, and Highlander Hunter there, I think have put him in good stead to take a win against Frosty if he can keep up this high level of play.
Very true. And thank you so much to Lorraine